Well, the Liberals have now unveiled their new plan to curb emissions by 2030. And the plan lays out a sector-by-sector proposal to slash emissions across the country, with the goal being to reduce those levels to 42% of what they were in 2005. So joining us to talk about the feasibility of this proposal is Deborah Van Nijneten. She's a professor of political science at Wilfrid Laurier University. She's also an expert in environmental governance, and governance is a key part of this discussion. Good morning to you.
Indeed. Good morning. Happy to be with you folks this morning.
This is all part of Canada's strategy to become a net zero emitter. What exactly is meant by net zero?
Okay, I think that's a great place to start. So we know that climate change is caused by the buildup of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere around the Earth. And these gases include carbon dioxide, but also substances like methane and nitrous oxide, fluorinated gases. Okay, now net zero is a greenhouse gas emissions reduction target that Canada and many other countries have set for themselves. So it's really important to note right away that Canada is not alone in setting a net zero target. In fact, countries representing 90% of economic activity around the world have net zero targets, right? So Canada is positioning itself. Now, achieving net zero emissions means that you get a balance between the greenhouse gases that you emit into the atmosphere and those that you take out, or that you don't emit in the first place, or that you remove, right? Either through technology or by building up your carbon sinks, right? So we know that plants, forests, peatlands, wetlands, they take in carbon dioxide. So really what you're trying to do is achieve a balance, okay? That's what it means by net zero.
The most recent emissions inventory found that Canada produced 730 million tons of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases. This was in 2019. So in order to reach the new target, that number would need to be slashed by 39% by the year 2030. So what needs to happen?
It's a huge challenge.
Yeah, what needs to happen in order for that to even be possible?
Okay, well, this plan, I think, lays out for the first time a detailed pathway forward, or at least several pathways forward. And it makes it clear that reductions have to happen across all of the major economic sectors. So whether you're talking about oil and gas or transportation, the building and construction sector, agriculture, electricity generation, all of those have to emit. And so what's new about this plan is that it takes the target and says, all right, electricity, that's your target. Oil and gas, that's your target. Building, that's your target. So this plan actually says, all right, here's what has to happen across different areas of the economy to contribute to that net zero target.
And meeting those emissions targets is actually a legal requirement now because of legislation the Liberals passed last year. How does that change the game? Because Net Zero Emissions Accountability Act sets those targets under the Paris Agreement. So by 2050, Canada is supposed to be a net zero emitter, and by 2030, those levels dropped to less than what they were in 2005. So how effective do you think that this layer of accountability or governance will be in terms of getting us closer to those targets?
So I think it's really important, because what it does is it sets out, okay, we've got the 2050 target, the 2030 target, but it sets out interim targets along the way. We have to report on whether we've met those targets and explain why we haven't if we have not. And that's going to shed a really bright light onto those sectors that are not meeting their individual targets.
And what happens if they don't? What if they can't explain it well enough?
Well, there will have to be pressure for additional measures, right? And that's where we've got a lot of policy and planning and programs already in the hopper, right? So even before the Greenhouse Gas Emissions Accountability Act came in, the Liberal government had a plan that had a whole bunch of programming that was getting started in order to reduce emissions, right? Then you layer on this act that says, okay, here are the targets, this is what we have to do, but now the government has to implement measures to actually achieve those targets. So if you want a certain reduction from oil and gas, they're talking about a cap. You have to legislate the cap. That has to be mandated, right? That sends a signal to the industry. So all of the different initiatives that you want to do, right, you're going to have to actually get going on implementation really quickly.
Deborah, I wish you had been here in the last 4 years to explain all of this stuff to us, because you make it so clear and easy to understand what needs to happen, what's going to happen if it's not met, and where it needs to happen. Great to talk to you this morning. Thanks so much.
My pleasure.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked this, be sure to subscribe here, or you can check out more Your Morning videos right here.